Okay, so we are here for SAP demo. Procure to pay, we are going to buy something. If you want to go ahead and buy something, you should know what you are buying. So the buying is your requirement. Buying is your requirement. You should be having a requirement coming up that what we need to buy, when we need to buy, what is the quantity we need to buy. Is it come that what price we need to come, that will also come in the requirement? Yes or no? What price we need to come buy? Yes, no, quickly. Whether the price will be coming? People said yes. That's where I say that business knowledge is required. So you need to understand from where the requirement is coming. Requirement can come from the individuals. These individuals, this is a production user. Then this is a quality users. The requirement is coming from them. A production user, quality user, and a kind of a IT technician. He need to buy a specific kind of camera. Is he the right person to tell you this camera, buy it on $5,000? No. These people know what they need it. How much the price it would be. Who would be supplying it? That's not part of the requirement in general. But there can be some specific business scenario where the price also can come up. A lot of places, the requirement will not come from person. Requirement will come from MRP. Material Requirement Planning, a planning engine. MRP is a planning engine. That will tell you what you need to buy by checking in the system. What is the sales team has a requirement? What is the production team has a requirement? Checking into the system. What materials we need to buy. The requirement will come from there also. That tool also would be telling you what we need to buy, when we need to buy, what is the quantity we need to buy. So in general, price and the vendor information would not be there in the requirement. So this requirement is created in SAP system as purchase requisition. This is created in SAP system as a purchase requisition, which tells the buyers, okay, you have some requirement which need to be created. Now this purchase requisitions is not a sourcing and procurement team. Most of the places it will not be generated by sourcing and procurement team. Directly these teams, production team, quality teams, admin teams will be training them how they can raise their requirement in the system, how they can use the transaction ME51N to create a purchase requisition. That is SAP transaction code which is used, ME51N, to create a purchase requisition. Is the purchase requisition creation mandatory in P2P process? Quickly, yes or no? Is the purchase requisition creation is mandatory? Some people said yes, some people said no, it is not mandatory. Mandatory thing would be purchase order. You can also directly go ahead with the purchase order. Then this purchase requisition, your procurement team would be working on. Okay. From here, it can go to the sourcing or it can go to the procurement. In which case it will go to sourcing and in which case it will go to procurement. When, okay, let me ask you step by step. When this purchase requisition would be routing to the sourcing team, there would be separate sourcing team would be there. Vendor development department. There is a specific strategic buyers would be there. So this is a separate team. This is a separate team in the business. When it will go to for the sourcing quickly, and in the chat window if you don't know, when it will go to the sourcing? Production item, it will go for sourcing. No idea. Okay, not a problem. No idea is a very good answer. Your mind is ready to get the ideas. So it will go to the sourcing. If you don't have here, if you don't know who should be the vendor for it, who should be the supplier for it, or you have an existing supplier, but you are not happy with their quality, or you are not happy with their price they are providing it. Okay. If that kind of issues are there, we don't know the vendors, we don't know the supplier, we don't have existing supplier, then only it will go for sourcing. Otherwise, it will directly jump for the procurement. If it is going directly for the procurement, what are the things we will be doing in the procurement? is we'll be creating a purchase order. PO will be creating it. Okay. What would be the next step after the PO creation? What would be the next step after creating the PO? GRN, sending PO to vendor ki हाँ भैया send तो कर दो vendor को, right? Send PO to the vendor. Yes, output will go to vendor. Will be informing ki भैया we have raised the PO. We are sending it to vendor. But before sending it to the vendor, what other process would be there? Approval, Sridhar, very good. Release the PO. PO need to be approved. Approval need to happen. In other words, in SAP word, this approval, we call it releasing the PO. Somebody would be checking and releasing the PO. Again, this is not a mandatory activity. We need to specifically set it up. What need to be approved, why it need to be approved, what need to happen, then it will go. Whether the approval would be there for the purchase requisition, we have not discussed whether approval would be there for the purchase requisition also. Yes or no in the chat window. Yes, yes. RM said optional, no. Mixed answers, and mixed answer is the answer also. We avoid to have approval for the purchase requisition if it is a direct material, if it is generating from MRP, we try to not to have approval for it. But if it is the manual requirements which is generating by the people, let's say these peoples here, they are manually generating the requirements. Their department head need to approve it. So in those cases, we can have approval for purchase requisition. For specific business scenario, we can have approval. For specific business scenario, we can avoid the approval for the purchase requisition. Okay. Once the purchase order is approved or released, what is the next step after it? Once the purchase order is approved or released, then basically you would be sending this to we will be sending it to vendor. Yeah, this is the one thing, you get it done. Okay. Then vendor can provide us the confirmation back, which we can store. Vendor can provide us the ASN also. ASN can be a separate inbound delivery can come, but these are the complex processes we'll be going through in our training sessions one by one. Okay. There will be on vendor confirmation acknowledgements. There is a separate session is there. To simplify the process, vendor would be shipping the product to you. Okay. I'm poor in the drawings, but this should look like a truck. Right? So vendor would be shipping the products to you. So once vendor has shipped the product to you, what transaction you do in the system? Once vendor has shipped the product to you to receive the products, GRN, good receipt notification, GRN, MIGO. MIGO is a transaction code. GRN is a business terminology. Good receipt note we created. A MIGO is done in the system, right? And once we receive it, you would be having a stock available. Your stock would be available. At this point, your finance team will come into the picture. Integration with finance will happen. At this point, you will be having integration with the finance. Right? At this point of time, the finance integration will happen. Your financial books will get updated. Your stock is also available. Now you can use the stock. It can go with the quality inspections or other things. We will discuss more detailed process during the workshop. Also, I will be explaining you the different processes of the sales order process, procurement process, manufacturing process, with the finance process, how all these things will be connected with each other. That skeleton also will be creating it during our workshop session. So good receipt note need to happen. Once the good receipt note is happened, the next step is invoice. That is the Miro. When do we need to create an invoice? When do we need to create an invoice? Immediately after the GRN? Or what is the trigger point to generate an invoice? When this Miro transaction need to happen, what is the trigger point? Quickly over the chat. If you don't know, put NI. If not returned after the GRN, what is the trigger point? What is the business trigger point to generate the invoice? Payment terms. Okay. What else? Payment to vendor. Very good. You all have successfully answered the wrong question, wrong answer. After clearing qualities, no. Before closing, no. When there is an internal requirement from, no. Account receivable, no. कि भैया, what is invoice? Try to understand. That's where the business process knowledge is very important. You cannot become a consultant कि भैया configuration आता है मुझे, master data, I know it. But why you need to do it? What is the business process? Receive the goods, no. What is invoice? Try to understand what is invoice. The invoice is a document which is given to you from vendor. So this vendor need to give this invoice document to you. Then you would be punching in the system. Vendor need to give you this document to you. Many times with the GRN, you would also be having a text invoice with it. With GRN, you have another paper text invoice. You will be taking it, many times scanning it and storing you, putting in your file, and then punching an invoice in the system. So in the 90% of the cases, the trigger point for the invoice is a document generated by a vendor. Vendor will say, boss, I have generated the invoice. Vendor would be generating the invoice, giving it to us on a paper, and based on that, we'll be generating the invoice in the system with the Miro transaction. So this is punching the vendor invoice into the system. He has given us. This is much he is asking for us to pay. We'll punch in the system. Okay. So the trigger point is a document from the vendor, a printed invoice from the vendor, a PDF invoice which has been sent over the email from the vendor. That would be the trigger point to generate the invoice. Okay. Then somebody said that payment, right? This payment will depend on the payment term, somebody said. This will depend on your payment term. Payment will depend on the payment term. Based on the payment term, automatically the clearing tool would be clear. This is a full finance part. This is a full finance part. You will see in businesses, sometimes this also, the invoice posting also has done by the finance. Although this Miro is a shared area between finance and MM, we'll try to have a combined session, an integration session between MM and FICO for the Miro. Okay, but this is the end-to-end procure to pay process high level. Then there can be a lot of variations can be there. Let me also explain quickly the sourcing part. Sourcing part, generally we are covering it in our excellence, because there is a new sourcing processes there in our excellence, but this time the basic sourcing process is available again. Earlier it was removed, it was available in Fury, but the basic sourcing process is available again. We'll try to cover that basic sourcing process in GUI through in our mastery sessions. So if you don't know the vendor, okay, then you would be creating, what is the document you will be creating? First document in the sourcing. What is the first document in the sourcing? Quickly. Quotation? No. Request for proposal or request for, it is not quotation. Make sure you are using right terminology. It's request for quotation, RFQ. You are requesting a vendor to give the quotation. Then vendor would be submitting its proposals. Vendor would be submitting to your RFQ or RFP. And then you would be creating a quotations in the system. Multiple vendors would be submitting the multiple quotations. Then you will do the comparison, quotation comparison. Then you will do the reward. And once you do the reward, what document it get created? Once you do the reward, PO. Either PO can be created, we can configure it, or contract can also be created. And then later on, this contract can be used to get the PO creation. That would be the sourcing part. We will try to show, will not take much time. We'll be going through detail in our training session, but we'll quickly try to show you how this part with the purchase requisition, purchase order, GRN, invoice, this quickly thing, how you need to do in SAP system, so that you also have some feeling of the SAP system. This is a SAP session. SAP need to be introduced in this session. But before we introduce SAP in session, let me introduce to our co-trainer, Kunal, who will be taking sessions in parallel with me. So Kunal would be taking the Sunday session. I will be taking the Saturday session. In both sessions, the topics would be covered. Okay, the different topics would be covered. So Kunal is having 7+ years of SAP experience. He is doing the batches for us almost from last 3 years, and almost 15+ batches he have done. He have also done the corporate sessions with us also, and he have trained more than 100+ is a less number. I don't see it's 100+. Easily in the last 3 years, we have trained more than 300+ SAP consultant. So 100+ consultant he has trained. I feel it's 300+, right? He is a certified one. He is a working professional. He is working in a project. So when we select a trainer, we select a trainer with the approach that the trainer should be having a good knowledge on the module. Second thing, he should be working. He should be working in a project, because when we are working in a project, you would be able to share your knowledge. And that is a key difference. I find it out that when you are paying 3 lakh, 4 lakh rupees, and when actually I'm checking, bhaiya, people are spending a lot of amount with the certified or with the authorized SAP institutes, but still they are not able to get what they wanted. What is the problem? One of the problem I find, they don't have a working consultants. They have a people who are training for last 4 to 5 years, and they are only training. They are not into the industry. They don't know what business is using nowadays. What are the business scenarios? What is the applications of the new function features? Okay, so once you are working into the projects, then you can share a lot of knowledge, practical knowledge. That's what we look. And Kunal is working. He's working onto the SAP S/4HANA projects. So he would be able to share a lot of business knowledge with you. Even I would be sharing in my sessions. I have now near to 20 years of experience within SAP. So I would be sharing a lot of I'm also working parallelly in a project. So we'll be sharing my experience from that. And the other thing which we find it out when we select a trainer, that from core, they should be having they should be having that zeal, and they should be having that passion to share the knowledge, right? Only having a knowledge does not make you a trainer. You should be passionate about what you are doing. You should be passionate about sharing the knowledge. That's what I'm passionate about. That's where we find also the other trainers who are passionate about sharing the knowledge, and Kunal is one of them. With this brief introduction, Kunal, over to you. You can keep putting your questions. Don't put directly to me, put it to everyone. By the time Kunal is answering it, going through the process, I would answer your questions in the chat, but please put it for everyone. I have a team also to answer your question.
So good morning, guys. We'll get into the system directly. I'm sharing my screen. Please confirm once you are able to see the screen.
Yes, we are able to see the screen, Kunal.
Okay. Yeah. So the things which we learned just now about the P2P process, how it functions, we will quickly see into the system through T codes, how you can enter the data and how we can generate the documents, whatever we have seen on the screen from Pramindra sir. But before getting into the system, there are a few things which we require as a prerequisite. What are those? The first one is few master data and then the organization structure. So we will be having a separate sessions on both of the things. We will be creating master data separately and even the organization structure, which we call org elements. These are the two main things which I require currently to run a P2P cycle, a material which needs to be procured from a supplier and a supplier. So these are the two master data. And apart from that, there are a few org elements like a purchasing organization, an organization which is responsible for procurement cycles and which will monitor end-to-end things. Then there is a purchasing group. This is kind of an element of a purchasing organization who is handling and who is dealing with the suppliers for all the communications. Then there is a company code and plant. So currently these are the things which are available in the system. I'll be using the same things to run my P2P cycle. So let's get into the system. So the first thing is creating a purchase requisition. The T code is ME51N. So this is the screen where we can see a creation of purchase requisition. So generally this requisition is created by a requester, or it can be created by purchasing organization member also. It depends how the business is running their cycles or how they are handling the SAP. But this document says there is a requisition, there is a requirement in a company for a certain material. That's what the purpose of this document. So I'll use the same things here. This is the material. Enter. Now, as you can see in any document or any screen, whenever you go in SAP, you will find multiple fields and multiple things to be inputted. But not all of them are required, or not all of them are mandatory. So how you can determine which is mandatory? Because when we run initially the few cycles, we have to just provide the mandatory things to understand or to get the grasp of the process. So what you can do, just whenever you click any data, just click on enter on the screen on your keyboard. Then system, the SAP itself will tell you what is the next field to be filled, which is mandatory in form of a error. And you can just follow the SAP instructions and fulfill the requirement to create the document. So similarly, I'll do the same thing for my purchase requisition. As you can see, we have provided the material. Now system is asking me to enter the quantity. So I'll enter some quantity here. Enter. Now it is asking me the plant. So the plant for which this procurement has to be done. Let's enter that one. Next one is purchasing group. So as we discussed, purchasing group is the person or the group of people who are responsible for the procurement. Enter. Now next thing, it is appearing in the format of green eye symbol. So this is a warning. This is not an error. This is a warning. We can ignore it. So it is asking, can the delivery date be made? So delivery date has calculated based on the material data. So we are fine with it. Now if I keep pressing enter, system is not throwing me an error. So that indicates all the basic things which are required for a purchase requisition have been fulfilled. Now we can check. This is the check button to just verify if all the things are available or not. So if I click on check, system says no messages have been issued or checked. So the things are fine and we can save the purchase requisition. Now the purchase requisition has been saved. Let us quickly see that in a view, in a display mode. So ME51N is for creation, 2 is display the requisition in a change mode, and 3 for a display mode. Click on other purchase requisitions, enter the number, other document. So this is the document in display mode. It has added with all the required things. Now the next part is it goes to the purchase organization or purchasing department. What they do, they will analyze this requirement based on available data or available quantity, all these things, and they will verify if this requirement is valid or not. Once the validation is done, then they will go into the market and they will see which are the correct suppliers. If we have certain suppliers or not, they will ask for the requirements and they will do the things which Parminder sir has just explained, like the request for quotation is creation, then that will get sent to the supplier, different suppliers. The suppliers will reply us with their quotations. Those quotations we will punch into the system, and once we enter all the quotations, then we can verify or we can compare the quotations and we will select a certain supplier. After a certain supplier is selected, then we will have the communication with him regarding all the terms and conditions or the pricing. If there are some negotiations, those negotiations will also happen from the business side, and the finalization will be done. Once all the things are finalized, then that purchasing organization will convert this purchase requisition to a purchase order. So how to do that? The T code is ME21N. Now this is the screen where we will add the purchase order. Somewhat similar, but there are few extra fields which are mandatory. We will see what are those. Now, I want to convert my purchase requisition to a purchase order. So that's why I will not put my data manually. I know my material, I know the plant, I know the quantity, but I will not put them manually because already I have a purchase requisition. So instead of doing that manual labor, what I'll do, I'll go to the document overview, click on my purchase requisitions, and these are the purchase requisitions which I have in the system. This is the one 822. Click on it. There are multiple ways to adopt or to convert this purchase requisition to a purchase order. First one is select and click on adopt, or you can select it and drag it to the cart, and you can see it has got adopted based on the purchase requisition details. And there is a third way what you can do. So there are already two fields here, two columns saying purchase requisition and requirement number, the item. You can provide these two details here and click enter. In that way also system will populate all the required things. So now we can see the things have been captured, and we have to now enter all the next mandatory things from the purchase order point of view. The first one is purchasing organization. So there might be different purchasing organizations, and it will go to the different purchasing organizations for consideration. One of them will pick the data, we pick up, and will do the procurement. So in our case, let's say it is SGM4. Now the next one is supplier. Now this SGM4 has been discussing all the requirement things with the different suppliers, and they have finalized one supplier based on the quotation and the further discussions. So the supplier is, let's say, this one. They will enter that in this. And if we enter continuously, now there are no warnings or no errors. That means the data has been completed. All other things have been copy pasted from the requisition, as we can see. The material, the quantity, the delivery dates, the net price. The material group is taking it from the material number itself. We will be discussing that in further. Then the plant and the purchasing group and company code. Again, we will click on check to see if there are any errors or warnings. So there are no errors and warnings, and we can save it. Similar to purchase requisition, the purchase order has also created a document, and this is the purchase order document number. Let's open that. Correct. So this is the document. Now purchase order has been created. Now, since you have created it, now it has to be issued to your supplier, because supplier will need some inputs from you with all the details. So this is the document which we have to send it. Now there are multiple ways to send it, either through mail or a hard copy or fax, whatever it may be. So that has to be recorded in here. And if you just want to see the preview, you can click on the print preview. And here we can see this is how the document will reach to supplier. Now this format, whatever you are see on the screen, is a general format or a template provided by SAP. Based on the business requirements, there are configurations to modify this format, which we'll be covering in different sessions. So you can see the details are already there, the purchase order details, then your company details, the delivery address. So these details we did not provide. If you remember, in purchase order, we did not provide all these details. But how it is populating? Because we provided a company code, we provided a purchase order, we provided a purchasing group, and all these things. And all those things have been previously configured with all these details, all these addresses, all the names and everything. And that's why system is picking this data from the configurations and putting up on your purchase order screen printout. Now there are item details, the pricing, and then there will be some terms and conditions. Okay, so this is how the printout will look. This printout will be sent to your supplier. Supplier will verify this purchase order, and then it will ship you the material. This material will be shipped to you after some day. Like in this case, it is 12th. The delivery date is 12th, so it will be shipped on you to the 12th of September. I'll go back. Now let's suppose the materials has reached to you at your doorstep. It's at your gate. Now you have to receive the goods. Now you have to do the goods receipt for that, and it will create a material document. So the next step is to do the goods receipt. T code is /migo. Migo is the T code. So we are doing a goods receipt. So you can see this Migo screen or the Migo T code will not just do the goods receipt. It has multiple functions. All your goods movement, the material movements, whatever it may be, receiving, issuing, scrapping, transporting, whatever it may be, all these things you will be doing through the single screen Migo. And these are this many functions you can perform. Currently we are focusing on only goods receipt, so we'll do the goods receipt. Now again, goods receipt you can do with reference to multiple documents or with reference to multiple scenarios. There are multiple scenes with which we can do the goods receipt. Currently what we are doing a goods receipt against a purchase order. So our reference is purchase order, hence we are selecting a purchase order and we will provide a purchase order number. Enter. As soon as you enter, system will again populate all the details from your purchase order. Your material number, then the quantity with which you are procuring, now where you have to procure. The goods moment, the moment type is the indication which tells you how this material is moving. So 101 is for a goods receipt against a purchase order. So whenever you do a goods receipt against a purchase order, it will always be, that material will always be moved with a moment type 101. Now there are two things. The first one is plant. So where we are storing the material, we will be storing the material in this plant. But plant is not the specific thing, right? We have to provide the storage location because the material will finally be stored in a storage location. So these details will be filled by the warehouse guy. So wherever he has the details or the requirements, he will fulfill, he will provide the storage location details and he will enter. Once we do that, then the other things will just show you the purchase order number and the partner from which we are procuring it. Then there is the item OK. This indicates the item has been received and it has been stored. Click on item OK, check. SAP is saying the document is OK. That means we can post it. The material document has been posted. If we go back to our purchase order, go to the display mode. Now here you will see a purchase order history. This purchase order history is nothing but what are the subsequent documents or how this purchase order has been processed further. We can see the first document has been is arriving it's populating here. The first one is goods receipt, which is nothing but a material document. If we click, this is the document which got posted currently with our Migo transaction. Okay, so the goods have been received. Now the further thing is to do the invoice verification. Okay, now remember, we say it's invoice verification. It is different from your SD invoice. Here verification term is important because the invoice will be received by the supplier. So the supplier will send you the invoice. It may be, it depends how he sends you. It may be with the goods itself. When you do the goods receipt, that time itself you will receive the invoice, or it will be after some time. It depends based on the business conditions. But the invoice will be received by, you will receive the invoice from the supplier itself. What you have to do in the system, you have to just punch it, or you have to just verify the details of your supplier. For that verification, what you have to do, whatever invoice you get, just read it out and input those details on your invoice verification screen, which is Miro transaction. Then system will automatically verify it against your goods receipt and your purchase order based on the configurations and the inputs, and it will tell you whether the verification is correct or not, or whether the invoice provided by your supplier is correct or not. So how to do it? Let's perform. So the first thing is invoice date. Let's say we have received the invoice today. Then we have to provide here the reference. That reference is nothing but the invoice number. So your supplier will have certain invoice numbers based on their numbering systems. So that number you have to provide here, and provide the purchase order number. Enter. Based on the pricing and the goods receipt you have done, system will say there is a 10,000 balance. The system is automatically showing you the 10,000 balance. If the invoice also says 10,000, and based on the invoice, if you provide 10,000 here, then the balance will get nil, and we can continue with the invoice verification. But if invoice says something different than the balance, then based on your tolerance limit, whether it will be accepted or not depends. And if it is not accepted, then the invoice verification fails. Then it will be parked, and you have to reach out to your supplier to discuss further, like why this extra amount was provided, even though the discussion was different during our purchase requisition or the purchase order discussions. Okay, so currently let's go ahead with the simple scenario, and let's say the invoice verification is clear. It is the same amount based on our SAP calculation, and then let's click on the simulation. Once you click on the simulation, system will do its GL account allocation. There is 10,000 credit and there is 10,000 debit for your GRR as well as supplier. Now let's post it, and the invoice document has got created. Let's go back to our purchase order again. Now, if we come back, again the purchase order history tab got populated with another document. The first one was goods receipt, hence it was material document. The second one is invoice receipt. So this is the invoice document, invoice verification document. Correct? So that's how things flow in a general P2P process. You first start with a requirement, which is nothing but your purchase requisition. Then you convert that to a purchase order, which is done by a purchasing organization team. Then once we receive the goods, we do the goods receipt, which will create a material document. And after that, whatever invoice you receive from your supplier, you do the invoice verification through Miro. Once you do the invoice verification, then the next part is payment. You have to perform an actual payment to your supplier, but this is done by a FI person. So this is not part of procurement cycle, not part of consultant. This is not responsibility for the or the goods receipt guy. This is responsibility of FI department. So this will be handled by FI consultant. Okay, what they will do, based on the invoice receipt or invoice verification, they will see there is some credit amount to that supplier, and they will do the payment to the supplier's account. Okay, so this is how end-to-end P2P cycle runs. Anyone has any doubts on this? Okay, so let us go back to, so whatever we just saw was just a general representation of a P2P cycle. There are multiple facets to it, multiple things which we have to perform in order to run a P2P cycle. There are a lot of prerequisites configurations we have to perform, and all those things we'll be covering in our gamifier sessions. So there will be 40 hours plus recorded. We'll be having the live sessions for 40 hour plus, which where we will be running end-to-end cycles for all the facets or all the processes from the perspective. Okay, so it starts with basic procurement process. So where these sessions will be generally covered by Paminder sir. He will be having a detailed sessions just to introduce you with the module. how it starts and how it proceeds. Then we go ahead with the enterprise structure. So as you know, SAP is nothing but your representation of how a company runs. So company performs their activities in general or in reality. We just in SAP just do the replication of it. It just keeps the record, right? So if it is keeping a record, we have to replicate a complete enterprise in a virtual format. We have to introduce a virtual format enterprise in our SAP. So we have to create all the company codes, plants, storage locations, org structures. We have to perform everything. So we'll be covering all those things in the enterprise structure. We'll be creating a separate enterprise structure. Once we create that in a session, you have to create your own, because once you create your own, you will be understanding it, and you have to the further processes or all the further things which we do, you have to run it in your own enterprise structure or in your own org elements. Next one is FI configurations. So see, whenever you do anything, it may be any module, PP, ST, MM, whatever it may be, everyone has an implication on FI part. If there is no FI part implication, what is the purpose of SAP? Because the main purpose of SAP is to monitor your FI finances, to record your finances, right? So everything you do has FI replications. To For that FI replication to happen, we have to do certain FI configurations. Those also we'll be covering. Then there are master datas. We just saw two master datas currently, which is material master, business partner. There are other things as well, which we'll be covering in master datas. Then there is a planning. So this planning, the purchase requisition which I created was a manual creation. Like in some situations, a person will go and he will record his requirement in the purchase requisition. But most of the situations, the purchase requisition is created through planning because the process is automated and it is very well defined. So in those situations, instead of creating it manually, the business goes ahead with MRP, material requirement plan. So these things will also be covered. This will be a combined session. Then there is indirect planning. Then there is account determination. So this configuration is nothing but this is relevant for FI and MM both. So we'll be covering that. Then there are certain special business scenarios like your your pipeline procurement, supplier confirmations, BOM, vendor subcontracting, all those things. Then there is pricing and GST, invoice verification. So right now, which I did Miro was a simple entering of the things and getting a documented printed for your invoice verification. But there are multiple things to it. It's just not that simple process. So there are multiple things which we'll be covering in detail in our invoice verification sessions. Then there is release strategy, outline agreements, then inventory management. So this output management is nothing but what we saw. Whenever we create a purchase order, we have to issue it to our supplier. How to issue it, how to configure it, what are the different ways to configure. So all those things we'll be covering in output management. Then there is service procurement. There are few integrations. Just now we saw with F5. Then there are few integrations with PP. Those will also be covered. And the reporting and tables. Then we have certain assignments. So these assignments are not fixed. Based on how we proceed the sessions, how people interact, based on that, these things gets changed. But this is a general representation of how the assignments will be covered. So this is all about our sessions or the curriculum of how we will proceed with our mastery sourcing and procurement course.
Thank you, Kunal, very much. Anyone have any questions? Thank you, Kunal, for appearing here and giving this quick demo and explaining the curriculum. Really appreciate that. Anyone has any quick questions? You can feel free to ask. And now we are at the end of the session. You can also feel free to raise your hand and we'll be able to give you the unmute access. That also we can do it. Yes, all the things which we have shown is part of the mastery bundle. Kunal, I am sharing my screen. And Kunal, whenever you want, you can feel free to leave the session also. It's up to you now. So this is the bundle. So this all is covered. The gamifier means the recorded sessions of the live. The live recorded sessions, the live session which we do, that recording session you will be able to get from here. The previous batch recordings also you can check it from here, from the gamifier. This is a mastery to SAP S/4HANA sourcing and procurement. And if you want to get this access to this curriculum, this is the curriculum. From this link, everything is there. Price is there. You can enroll. You can check the curriculum, the path which we have shown. You can check the path from here. Okay. And this is the course. All the course videos you can see from this is, we call it as a dynamic course content. And here the live sessions links and the recording of the live sessions would be available from here. ERP server access is available with you. SAP Job and Mastery, that's an additional 60 to 70 hours of course to give you the implementation and support exposure is available. You can book your mock interviews and the mentorship sessions. You can book it from here. This is the mind maps and the content library which I have shown where the mind maps are available and a lot of content we are adding it. Okay, you can go through from here. This is a CV building course, which you can go from here. You will be able to build the CV. These are the step-up circle videos, 200 plus hours of videos on the different topic. As and when required, ad hoc required, you can go through them. This is a place where you'll be able to prepare for your interview questions. Okay. And this is the preparation for sourcing and procurement certifications. This part will help you to prepare for the certifications. And this is a prerequisite course, SAP in nutshell. Make sure you cover this course, SAP in nutshell, before we go ahead into the course. Or if you're not able to cover this course, you can also attend the workshop which we have. The workshop content is similar to this nutshell, but this would be more detailed. I will personally request, if you have never done a consulting job, this is must for you. Make sure by the time when we jump into the schedule session, this one you have already covered it. Okay, I'm going back to PPT to show you the schedule. This will be the schedule. So we have 14 September, we have workshop, SAP workshop. This is SAP in a nutshell workshop. And this is 15 September is a workshop on SAP navigation. So these two sessions to make you sure you know SAP, you know navigation, so that you can jump ahead into it. Both of the content is also available in a course SAP in a nutshell, which you can do it. Okay, and this is the live sessions for them in a workshop mode. So we'll be starting with the Saturday, 21st September. Saturday session I would be taking 6:30 a.m. India Standard Time. Sunday session Kunal would be taking, that is 6:30 a.m. India Standard Time. Okay, so these would be the Saturday and Sunday sessions which we would be doing it. Okay, and it takes generally to us around 3 months of time. We try to cover in 2.5 months, but it is taking 3 months of time to cover all the live sessions. Okay, again, 80% of the content, major content, you would be getting it from the live session. 20% you need to go through the videos. We'll be assigning some videos to you. We have a fixed one time. We don't have any another time available. This is the time we have. If you miss any session, you would be having recordings available, but this is the only time we have available. Okay. Rahul is asking iDocs, BAPIs, bodies. iDocs, BAPI, body has been covered in this one. You will be having a sessions on the iDocs, BAPIs and bodies in SAP Job and Mastery. In Job and Mastery, you will see there is a session because that is required to prepare your functional specification. So one session is there on the iDocs, one sessions is there on the BAPI and bodies, where I have explained how to create a functional specifications. If you want to go into the very details of the functions, very detail of the iDocs, we have one separate session also, separate, not a session, separate course also available only for iDocs. That is almost 10 to 12 hours of course only on the iDocs is available on our platform, which you can go through. For BAPI's bodies also, if you want to go into very detail, you want to learn more technical. Right now we have a live sessions happening for ABAP for functional consultants. We are debugging, enhancements, BAPIs, bodies, whatever the things required. But that is a little bigger course. That is 22 hours of the course, which is right now going live, ABAP for functional consultant. Okay, I have one hand raised. Go ahead, Atanu.
Hi, Parminder. Good morning.
Hi, good
So,
morning.
just trying to, just visualize that it all starts from the requirement gathering or requirement proposal and going backward gradually, if I may so, taking or rather extrapolating to the demand management and further down the line from going backward, I'm talking about demand management to operations plan and then sales and operations planning. And then I just come by to this definition, which I'm reading from where I noted that supply network planning is a module in APO that enables an organization to determine sourcing, production plans, distribution plans, and purchasing plans. So here exactly I got stuck that if it is a very big company who implemented APO or IBP in modern terms, is there any way we can correlate S&P to our procurement? Or have you ever seen such kind of situation?
Yes, we have seen that we are basically, and you know that not only from S&P, these things can be done from the demand management module. Even the PPDS module also have a capabilities to generate the procurement proposals in APO. So what happens that whatever the proposals has been generated from them, whether it's S&P, whether it is whether it's S&P, whether it is PPDS, there's a two ways it can come into the system. One way is that if the demand management is doing, demand planning is happening, demand management and demand planning comes in the S/4HANA system as a planned independent requirement, as a PIRs, not purchase info record, but planned independent requirements it can come and sit into the SAP S/4HANA system, and then MRP engine can be used to create those from this plan independent requirements, generating the purchase requisitions for you. Right? That is the most common model which I have seen. But these tools in APOs also have a capabilities to do the MRP work and to generate the purchase requisition, and directly purchase requisition can also be created in SAP S/4HANA system. In those cases where the purchase requisitions are been triggered from the APO or from the external tools, we mark it as a no planning in the S/4HANA. So MRP will not be impacting anything. Purchase requisitions are directly generating. That is the less scenario I have seen. The most scenario is we try to bring the planned independent requirements, which comes from the S&OP process, into our S/4HANA system, and then MRP run generates the purchase requisition from the demand forecast.
Right, right. And just by virtue of being already enrolled in that capacity, if I can may ask, so we'll be doing the practicals according to the or in line with what the faculty will be training us. But beyond that, can I also attempt or rather try? Let's say I would like to create a sales bomb and create my own MRP and how it generates the production order. Those kind of stuff. Am I eligible to do in the system, or I have to tie up with exactly what the trainer is telling me?
So you can do, that's why we have put it this one. If you go through the ERP access, where is ERP? This is the ERP access. If I will go through this, basically the ERP SAP GUI side, you have a full access. We don't restrict that only for sourcing and procurement, but make sure when you go here, there is some server guidelines are there. You need to use the server from the server guidelines. Even this has a videos to, you have enrolled for it has a videos how you can set up for SD, do end-to-end SD cycle, how you can set up for PP and do end-to-end PP cycles. Okay, in the general errors, how you can fix that content is there. So basically in the guidelines, we make sure that you are not supposed to change any existing master data or any existing configurations. So this part guides you that if you want to do something in the PP and you want to play around a lot, this part guides you that how you can start from a company code, plant, create your own BOM, create your own routing, create your own production version, product cost estimate, how you can do it. Then after that, how you can run your end-to-end PP cycle, you would be able to do it. Once you have company code plant, in your company code, you can do the things. In your plant, you can do the things. In your material, in your master data, you can play around, but don't change other people's. So that's why you have a free hand. But If you get stuck somewhere here in the PP cycle, we would not be able to support you if you have not enrolled for the PP bundle.
Understood. Right.
Right? Because the community you have access to and the trainers you have access to, they would be they would be having expertise in the MM side, sourcing and procurement side, not the PP side. So those bundle, if you have access, then you can also ask your questions to them where you are getting stuck.
But it will have bearings on my MMR, right? MRP 1, 2, 3, 4.
It will have
while we'll be doing the material master, MRP 1, 2, 3, 4. So some of the fields will be overlapping with PP. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so we have a session in MM, which is a MRP overview. That is one of the session would be there in the planning. We'll be covering it. So to know the basic things of basic thing as a sourcing and procurement, which you need to know, and that session would be a combined session between PP and MM. So apart from these sessions, we are telling you a lot of places we will be having a combined session. So MRP generally we do one session combined. Planning is at least 4 to 5 sessions in the PP. But the MM guy need to know the overview of MRP. So first session is an overview of MRP. We do combine between PP and MM, and then we will be having a detailed session in the planning for PP, and the MM guy would be having a basic information. What are the not MRP 2, 3, 4. If you are saying MRP 1, 2, 3, 4 is overlapping, that does not overlap. Only MRP 1 and 2 gets overlap. 3 and 4 is specific for the PP stuff. Right?
All right.
So, but whatever the overlap is there, that we train into an integrated session. There would be a lot of integrated sessions between the different modules. For FICO, we'll have an integration session for when we do the account determination. For invoice processing, integration session with FICO. For MRP, integration session with PP. For STO, integration session with the MM, PP, and SD. And then one integration session with SD. For the third party sales or dropship sales integration session with SD. So we'll be having these different integration sessions planned to cover the overlaps.
All right, Parminder. I mean, thanks so very much. Hats off to your endeavor to make us valuable resources, because I crushed my head at almost length and breadth of India that haven't seen the enormity of this training, what you are offering. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Vasant, for your question, and thank you for joining. I have few questions. For SAP S/4HANA, for MM, are we not working on Fiori screen instead of DynPro screens? DynPro screens we don't work. We work onto the GUI and Fiori. So what we do that we will in the navigation part, we'll also try in the 3-hour workshop, we'll try to give you the overview of Fiori also. Although all the Fiori part is there in Excellence. Okay, majority of the Fiori part we have taken in Excellence. In S/4HANA, both is available. GUI is also available. Fiori is also available. Majority of the Fiori part is there in Excellence. But here, if you will see, I think we have one session. In this one, if you will go through, we have given one session on Fiori, that how you can do end-to-end procure-to-pay session with Fiori. This is a Fiori overview is there. Basic Fiori overview concept is available here. But we'll be focusing more on the Fiori in our Excellence bundles. Less here, but a kind of an overview of Fiori has been given. Which is advisable to do after the MM mastery training between Ariba and Excellence in MM. That depends on profile to profile. FND, if you can unmute and let us know that what profile do you have, you will be able to suggest whether MM mastery, MM Excellence, or Ariba, or Vasant is suggesting for EWM. But we would be able to let you know if you can let us more details. You can raise your hand. I would be able to unmute you. Fendi, I have given you access to unmute. If you can unmute and let us know your background. And then based on that, I would be suggesting you after MM Mastery, which other bundle you can take. So I always say that sourcing and procurement excellence bundle all sourcing and procurement consultant need to take it, need to do it, because you need to have a strong grip on your core modules. You do it now or you do it little later, that depends on you, but you must do it. Go ahead, FND.
Okay, so I'm asking to know, I have much interest on material management. So I want to know which other, if I should go ahead to do the excellence or try to do Ariba to improve my background in material management.
Yeah, if you can let me know a little bit about your background. What is your, are you working right now as a consultant, or you're
No,
looking?
no. I'm not working now as a consultant.
Do you have any operations experience?
I'm not, but I've been learning from the bundle I bought last time.
Yeah. So, do you have any kind of experience?
No, beginner.
You are a beginner. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So, if you are a beginner, you don't have any kind of exposure, that once you do the MM mastery, before going for MM excellence, I would suggest you that we need to identify. So there's a two wings there. MM has a procurement, MM has a portion of inventory, and MM has a portion of sourcing. So sourcing, procurement, inventory, these are the three things which is involved in the MM, sourcing and procurement, right? So we need to check your interest, that where you are more interested. If you say that inventory management generates my more interest, then I will suggest after MM mastery, you add EWM with having two different profiles, two different modules in your CV. That will help you. And then later on, you can do MM excellence. If you say that, no, the sourcing side, it what excites me, then you can go for Ariba. Ariba and MM Master you can do first, and MM Excellence you can do later. So that you have two modules in your CV, that will increase your chance for the interviews.
Okay.
Okay. So you need to think through that what is more interested to you once you have worked on the sourcing side a little bit, once you have worked on procurement, inventory management. If inventory more excites you, go for EWM. If sourcing and procurement, that area more excites you, go for Ariba.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Ramiwal has a question. Will Shastra Geek be helping us in our professional project work if needed in the MM domain? For example, I am stuck with some posting errors in our office projects. Can I reach out to the trainer? No. So we don't support that. You need to understand the project work. We don't have access to your system, right? And if it is a very small things, during the end of the session, you can show it to the trainer. This we are, I'm getting stuck, but we don't commit you to solve, because one project error issues, we don't have your system access. We cannot see the configuration. If I need to sit, if Kunal need to sit, we both are working professionals, right? We both are working professional, and there is no end to supporting the project work. If you are struggling a lot, although I don't prefer, we don't prefer, but if you are struggling a lot in your project, we have a special service that is a on-job support. I don't like to provide it, but there are some people who get stuck in the problem who need help. We have created that service, on-job support. On-job support would be charged separately. The consultant would dedicatedly sit for you on the hourly basis. You would be sharing the screen, then he would be going into the details, into the configurations with you, and sometime one error resolution will take 3 to 4 hours also. So that is charged on the hourly basis. A very simple or basic thing you want to ask to get an idea, the right way is that at the end of the session, you can show it to me or to our to Kunal, and just try to take an idea. But if you need a dedicated support, then you need to take it separate on-job support service, which I don't prefer. I want you to resolve your issues by yourself. Try to use Google, try to use SAP Notes help. That would be able to help you. That's how I have started my career. I got stuck on many places. In MMSD, these are very old modules. There is 80 to 90% of the problems you can solve by yourself if you know how to do a Google search. 95% of the problem you can solve if you have access to me.sap.com, which generally you have. Even if you don't know, you need to get a user ID and password for the project for the specific issue where you get stuck, me.sap.com, right? My preference, you resolve it by yourself. Second option, a quick guideline. At the end of the session, you can show, but we don't commit to solve your problem, right? Third is the last option is taking the services from us, where basically we'll be having a dedicated consultant charging on the hourly basis to you. Remy is asking, is the session recordings, all the sessions are recorded and the recordings would be available to you. I will show you quickly. So this is the product. Whenever you get access to this product, try to go through it. This is the gamifier. Okay, in the gamifier, you will be having a link. So this is the sourcing and procurement session link for my sessions. This is the session link for the Kunal sessions. Okay, and this is the, you can see the my batch. We have done almost 28 sessions for the my batch. Okay, this is the previous session recordings. All the batch recordings are available here. So these recordings, you will be getting it. The live recordings, you will be getting it here. But you have already pre-recorded sessions, which if you want to go through from top to bottom, we have already these pre-recorded sessions available for you for each topic. Okay, MRP views, I need now. You will take another 1.5 months to reach MRP. I need now. Jump into this video and watch it. Okay, I don't see any another question. Vasant is asking, when is the batch for TM? TM will take some time. We are finishing this batch. We'll take a 1 month of break. The next batch for TM will be starting post Diwali, which will be somewhere near to November. Thank you everyone for joining this sessions. We'll see you all. We'll catch you all during our workshop and see you and catch you then. Bye-bye for now.